What's up, Starcraft fans? Today we're doing the tier list for delivery guaranteed on Void Launch. So Brian, let's hear the mutation.
Void Launch is the map where we have to shoot down Amon's shuttles. There are 7 waves of shuttles which increase in size, number of prongs and escorts. We cannot let more than 4 shuttles escape, otherwise we lose the game. Enemies revive once upon death and get a 100 health shield when they first take damage. Nukes randomly drop all around the map.
Okay, so we have Twotuuuu and Sticksbender in the call with us today. How are you guys?
Great.
Yeah, doing pretty good.
Okay, so Twotuuuu, how do we rank the commanders this week?
So it's basically how well can you deal with enemies, including the shuttles that have 2 lives. So you need to deal a lot of damage, and you also need to be pretty mobile. So if smaller armies are better because they can dodge the nukes better, and the barriers are gonna be a bit more annoying.
A bit more annoying.
Okay. Yeah.
How about you, Sticksbender?
This mutation is a stat check with explosions. The primary thing is going to be having an army that is able to overcome the just die plus barrier, giving enemies a huge amount of stats. Although, if you're just hitting the enemy without being hit back at all for a prolonged period, then perhaps you can just not care or worry about that. And then on the side, you also have to dodge nukes, which is going to be annoying and relevant for everyone. But for the most part, the biggest effect of that will just be they didn't want you just making buildings on this one.
Unless your buildings teleport, maybe. Anyway, let's not get ahead of ourselves. Abathur, where do we have him?
So Abathur, well, you don't need a fast brutalist, but because of just die, and because you only face 2 attack waves before the first shuttles, you're probably not gonna have many units. You can get Ravagers, but I guess they're not brutalists. Brutalists cleave and take out barriers and stuff. If you go biomass farming, you're probably gonna get nuked, and that's really annoying. And enemies have 2 lives, which makes everything just really bad. The good thing is once you get rolling, he just has devourers and vipers to stop enemies. He has a really strong late game army. So yeah, if you get there, he'll be fine. But the early game is kind of rough, so I put him in B.
Okay. How does it matter at all that he can probably lose his entire army if he's not paying attention?
Why would you not pay attention? That's just...
Sometimes you have to go back to the base, build infrastructure, get your workers to harvest something. I don't know. Sometimes you have to look away from your army. You can't just have your camera on the army.
Brutalists can get nuked. By the time you have anything that's not an ultimate evolution, your macro should be done. You have everyone. You have you're fully saturated. You have all the buildings, and you have 6 big units that don't die to 1 nuke.
All right, letter.
I said already. B.
Okay. How about you, Sticksbender?
So my only thought is that is B appropriate. His early game is going to be very rough feeling. Even just the first set of shuttles is going to be rather annoying to try and bring down, because you're going to need to use Ravagers because you can't use Spore Crawlers for it. You're not going to have enough gas from Mutalisks for it. You're going to need to kill the first set of shuttles somehow, or else you're just going to lose the game before it even really starts because you just don't have enough anti-air until too late. I would put Abathur in C tier because he kind of is going to struggle to even just keep up with the beginning of the game.
So it's entirely based on the beginning part. So you're not putting as much emphasis on the late game as much as the beginning.
I mean, if you are losing the game on the first 2 shuttle waves, it doesn't matter that you would have walked over the last 2 shuttle waves. You never got there.
Okay. What do you think, Twotuuuu?
For Abathur, for this map, it has a bit of the minor evac kind of thing, where if you sacrifice the first one, as long as your late game is super strong, I think it's totally fine. So Abathur, if he doesn't fight the first 2 shuttles, his late game army is gonna be still so strong that he probably can just take on all the rest of the shuttles. So so you can actually just let the first ones go, and then you have until about 11 minutes to kill 3 shuttles.
Yeah, so you're banking on how Abathur just power up fully by the first 11 minutes, and you should have everything by then.
Yes.
What do you think, Sticksbender?
I still don't really love the fact that we're just so weak early on, and how much I feel can go wrong. But I mean, if we're able to survive losing the first set of shuttles, I guess it's fine.
Yeah, I mean, 11 minutes is kind of just not early game anymore. It's smack dab in the middle of the mid game. Yeah, 11 minutes.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
So
yeah. Yeah.
All right. Yeah. Okay.
I guess I'm still leaning kind of towards C tier for Abathur, but we could put B for now, I suppose.
Okay. That works for me. Prestige wise, you want the second one or no prestige
First one.
even? First prestige.
Not first one, 0.
No prestige.
0.
Or
Yeah, you
because
want you don't have
Devours.
prestige.
Okay. So you want no prestige here. Let's move on. Alarak, where do we have him?
Alarak on the flip side has a very, very good early game. Or, at least P3 Alarak has the absurdly good early game we all know him for. You make a mothership, and then the mothership does everything until 11 minutes. And then a little past that, potentially. Hey, look, I wrote it's the perfect comment for Abathur.
Yeah.
Anyways, yeah, mothership is very strong. It will do a lot of early game carrying weight. For Alarak's hero unit, unfortunately, killing enemies the first time around does not give you the healing from Alarak's soul absorption of enemies that die.
Very sad
So
times.
it's a little bit of, it means that Alarak's hero unit is going to have a bit of a hard time healing because you have to proc barrier on everything and then kill it and then kill it again. And then finally, it's actually dead, so you can actually heal your hero unit. So he's going to be more snacky on supplicants, basically, is going to be the result of that. But at least Mothership is very strong. And once you get the ball rolling, Alarak's army is very high damage.
That's true.
It might have some problems on bouncing back because there's obviously you have to consider what happens if you do get hit by a nuke, if you get cornered, or you're just looking away at the wrong time, or just not paying attention. Whatever way that happens, like how well can you bounce back if it's something? Alarak cannot really bounce back, so that's a bit of a concern. So I would probably put Alarak in high B tier.
High B tier. Okay. What do you think, Tutu?
So my only issue is getting reinforcements, which you can mostly solve with a war prism or 2, and you just siege it, and you can replace your supplicants. You don't really have to look back because you're probably not making Wrathwalkers. I mean, if you are, then you need to be careful not to F2 them to death. But if you're just warping reinforcements in battle, you're pretty much never looking away from your army, and you're just controlling what you're looking at where the nukes are. You can see everything, and your like forges and stuff should be hotkeyed, or just don't upgrade anything when you're in battle. And this might be a time where you get the destruction, the push, you push them farther, because by pushing them you trigger the barrier and then they get pushed farther, so you kind of wait it out. It's easier to wait it out and then you actually go in for the kills. I put him in A because I think the Ascendant, Mothership Ascendant is pretty strong. And if you use War Prisms, you also add overcharges and you can teleport to get out after you're done fighting to deal with another shuttle on another, like from a different direction or something.
Yeah, the teleport's pretty good. So you're saying A tier, Sticksbender is B tier. So what do you think, Sticksbender?
I said he was, top of B tier level, like high B tier, so A tier is probably fine. I would also note that another quick note for the whole thing of Alarak having a pain point with the nukes is that, yes, he'll be paying attention to his army a lot. He'll be reinforcing on his army if he has a war prism that he's keeping track of. But also, his army is slow. His army is very sad if it does get hit even just one time.
Yeah, you can get cornered.
That's going to be something to, just don't be... It's going to be very sad if you lose all of your juiced up ascendants. Because you're not getting those rejuiced before the end of the mission.
Although,
anyways,
what's the maximum damage of a nuke? It's like 500, right?
750.
750. So if you get like 8 stacks
2.
of power overwhelming on the ascendant, they can technically take a hit, right? Technically.
This is true.
All right.
This is true.
Okay, just get your ascendants powerful enough. Anyway,
technically, if they have 7 stacks, they have 740 shields and 40 life, so they will be able to survive a nuke then as well. They're at completely full shield. They will take some life damage from it though.
They can just eat the whole nuke. It's like, ow,
and
it kind of hurts.
They will also take a few business weeks to get their shields back.
Business weeks.
You don't have a shield battery as Alarak, so if the Ascendant loses all its shield to a nuke, they're not really coming back.
Okay. So both of you are okay with A tier. Let's put Alarak in A tier. Okay. So we are in agreement that we want the third prestige, right? Third prestige for Alarak?
Third prestige.
Yes.
Yeah, we want the mothership.
Just the general does everything Alarak prestige of having a mothership that carries your entire early game by itself.
And maybe even some of the mid game too. Anyway, Arcturus.
You're fine with P0 though if you really want. If you don't have P3, you will be fine with P0. It's just P3 Alarak, kind of just a strict power upgrade over baseline.
Okay, Arcturus, where do you have him?
So if you're your ESOs, you can hit the enemies as they're walking to your base. So the least you will do is you will get rid of their barriers, and if you can actually like get rid of one life and then some if it's weaker like enemies. And since they always spawn from like a fixed spot, it's pretty easy to gas them, as long as you know like when the spawns are, and it's always the same spots, and you'll hit pretty much all of them. And as for the enemies, if you're using P3, you just have some troopers and add in like a few Sky Furies and don't F2. So like you just your number one control group attack them, and then you have like a bunch of bunkers at home. Those can defend against the attack waves as they get to your base. I think he's pretty strong. He has high DPS, so I put him in A.
A tier. Okay, what do you think, Sticksbender?
Thinks that anytime you think that you want a Sky Fury, just remember this could have been a Pride of Augsgrad.
It costs less gas, right? The Sky Fury?
It does cost less gas. However, counterpoint, Triple Yamato deletes one of the lives right through barrier immediately on every single shuttle in the way, which is pretty good. So you only need 2 Pride of Augsgrad to just triple tap Yamato. Hey, look, the shuttles are all dead. So that's really good. ESOs are able to really whittle down attack waves before they even get to you, especially with Contaminated Strike. I don't actually remember if how much the AI gets like reminded of their purpose in life on this map, or if they'll just kind of stand around forgetting their purpose due to the Contaminated Strike, because as we all know, Mega's Contaminated Strike known for causing brain damage in enemy attack waves and making them have amnesia.
Yeah, like Cage said.
Yeah, exactly. So
okay.
I guess A tier makes sense for me.
Okay, both of you
I suppose S tier is a little overkill. I think Pride of Augsgrads are actually very, very good for that. They could just manifest on top of the shuttle wave and tell it to cease. Also,
and then
Nuke is really good. Yes, and then demanifest because they have 2 charges of tactical jump. And then Nuke Rain is really good for this map in general because you have the mass convergence wave of shuttles and then the final wave of shuttles, which are 2 very like large waves of shuttles by massive numbers of enemies. It would be kind of like that's going to be a major sticking point for a lot of commanders, is going to be fighting through that triple converging wave and then the final wave. Anyways, Manx just gets to blow up the brunt of that attack by just pressing a button. So yeah, I would lean towards possibly putting Manx in S, but A tier is fine.
Okay, both of you say A. Let's put Arcturus in A. Prestige wise, third one. Artanis, where do we have him?
Artanis is going to have a little bit more trouble here. He's not very good at handling just die enemies because he tends to run into just raw strength issues. So that's going to be a bit of a problem. And going nuclear can be a bit annoying because if you have an air army of Tempests, they're kind of slow. If you have a ground army of Dragoons, it takes up a lot of physical area on the floor. If you're using Phoenixes, you're going to have huge problems with the fact everything has barrier and just die, and against most enemy compositions, Phoenixes are going to have a little bit of trouble actually fighting the buffed up enemies.
With their pea shooters.
They can work against the right enemy composition, especially against Colossus Protoss.
Yeah, if you make enough pea shooters.
Yeah.
Eventually you'll get them.
It's more a thing of they're really good against the enemy compositions that are bad at shooting up. Like C tier. I think that there is a lot that comes from at least his top bar is still really good, which is actually quite useful. It is quite useful to just be able to say, all right, I don't have to worry about whether I can get these shuttles because I can just chuck tar at it. And Artanis can do that as long as he has P3.
Okay. So what do you think, Twotuuuu?
Yeah, he basically, like, if you're fighting Zerglings, you're in a lot of trouble. Early game, barrier Zerglings plus
double
just
life.
Die is just a nightmare. You're just probably dead. If it's like a classic infantry, might also die early on. You need to get the spin, and if you get the spin, you won't hit air as hard. His top bar is good. I still think for this one, like, you'll at least do your part. So I put him in C.
Put him in C. Okay, so both of you have Artanis in C. Let's put Artanis in C. Dehaka, where do we have him?
So
Dehaka, where do we have him?
All right. So for Dehaka, he has creeper hosts, and he can shoot them from the base, and all you really do is you control the locusts. You control click all the locusts, and you can dodge the nukes and just right click the shuttles, and you do that twice, and then whatever enemies are left, you just fight them at home where you have your creeper hosts, your pack leaders, and a lot of primal worms because you'll have a lot of minerals. So it's really easy, and because if you're using P2, you don't really need to farm, so you don't even have to go out in the early game, but you can.
That makes
Yeah,
sense.
so I put him in S.
S tier. Wow, it's pretty high. What do you think, Sticksbender?
Remember to be a little bit careful with the shuttle waves going for multiple different conduits at the same time, because you're waiting to have the first wave of locusts to go get the first light, and the second wave of locusts to go get the second light. There is a little bit of that downtime there, and if you're having to do that for 2 such shuttles, yeah, you're probably going to want 2 separate shuttle groups of creeper hosts. Other than that, yeah, I don't really have anything else to add. He's really, really good. You just throw creepers at it from behind a wall of static defense guarding the ramps and entrances to your base. S tier Dehaka is fitting.
Okay, second prestige, right?
Second.
All right, Dehaka
Yeah.
S tier. Let's move on. Phoenix, where do we have him?
Oh no, it's Fenix on his absolute worst map.
Really?
So Phoenix has a bit of a problem with his ability to shoot up. He has Adepts, which have great damage against light because they have like 2.5 times bonus against light, terrible damage against non-light. And he has Scouts, which have a huge bonus against armored, so they have great damage against armored and terrible damage against non-armored. Shuttles are neither armored nor light.
Feels bad.
It is remarkable how hard it is to actually accumulate anti-shuttle DPS as Phoenix. You've got carriers, technically. Not only are they kind of slow, but also, if you're not careful, one wrong step, your interceptors, and they all get nuked, and now you have to wait multiple minutes to get all your interceptors back, and you just can't deal damage for the whole entire time in the meanwhile. So basically, your most consistent way to actually DPS shuttles is going to be the Solarite Dragoon.
Yep.
But if you use Arsenal Overcharge for it against just die shuttles, you're gonna need to burn the entire energy bar just to kill one wave of shuttles.
Very sad.
And then the next wave shows up and you haven't refreshed all your energy yet, unless you're using P1 Phoenix, which might even be recommendable. You do not want to be P2 Phoenix here because you're having to rely on the champions. Well, the Mojo's not going to do great because they're not armored. Telus is not going to do great because they're not light. So I would probably say your best bet is P1 Phoenix. And yeah, Phoenix is going to be deceptively difficult. C tier. I don't think he's quite D tier, but he's leaning in that direction, I think.
Okay, what do you think, Twotuuuu?
P1 Phoenix is my go-to for this map because for the first 3 shuttle waves, I just used the Dragoon suit. Like, then you just shoot them down. Just die makes it a little trickier, but like when normally without just die barrier, you overkill everything. So with just die, you just
Have enough.
you have like enough. You should still have enough, and you fight at home basically. You fight whatever's left at home, and then when there's double waves, then you by that time you should have an army of Duff. So
Duff.
I think I use carriers, and if you get nuked, well, don't get nuked, but
Just don't get nuked. Easy, just don't get nuked.
I use carriers plus a lot of like I used everything, so I just made a bunch of stuff and mostly carriers, and then there's like Warbringer, some Adepts, and then whatever. I put Phoenix in B, but I think C also makes sense just because kind of depends what you're fighting. Because if you're fighting an air comp, then you're kind of screwed because you used your Dragoon suit on the shuttles. So I think C is fine.
Okay, Phoenix C tier. You want first prestige, right?
Yes.
All right.
Also, note a warning with first prestige: if you lose the Dragoon suit, any minutes with first
Many
prestige,
minutes.
because it actually increases the respawn timer as well.
Ouch.
So do not let the Dragoon suit die, or
it's
else
being
you are
targeted-
kind of helpless for a prolonged period, and you're gonna need your ally to save you.
If it's being targeted, use a different suit anywhere. Like literally anything else anywhere, just so you can save the Dragoon suit. Anyway, Phoenix C tier. Let's move first prestige. Let's move on. Han and Horner. Where do you have them?
Han and Horner, if you want to do well, you need to be good at using strike fighters because you need to weaken the enemies before they get close.
So moving shots?
They're not good against just die.
Oh boy, I hope the enemy comp isn't flying.
Oh yeah, that too. So if they're flying, then you're in a
Screwed.
bit more trouble. Although Reapers do a lot of damage, but if they have AoE as well as flying, then you're kind of screwed. One good thing is that 1 out of 3, 1/3 of the time, so if you're fighting Terran, your Wraiths just get free kills, because the Terrans don't bring detectors, except like maybe at the very end, and like only one of the like 4 shuttles will have science vessels accompanying them. So if you're fighting Terran, you actually get free kills. But if you're not fighting Terran, then it's a little harder. So
Their strategy
I
is
put
The
them
second
in.
to last shuttle wave also comes with detection against Terran, but it's like 1 or 2 detectors that have a habit of flying in the front of the formation, so you can just pick them off.
okay. Please continue to
Yeah, I put them in C.
C. Okay. What do you think, Sticksbender?
I'm kind of inclined to put them in D just because, man, I hope the enemy can't fly, but yes, I could see C.
I'm not strongly opposed to D.
Yeah.
Because
Hellhorn have a rough time here.
I didn't
So-
consider the flying thing. I forgot about that.
Yeah. And also 2 and 3 chance that, you don't get free kills and that it's a pain in the ass to just get the shuttles. Ugh. Yeah. Let's put them in D tier.
For Han and Horner. Maybe if there were 3
I'm sorry,
commanders.
guys, but man, this is rough for you guys.
Maybe if there were 3 commanders instead of 2, they would be better. Han, Horner, and Hamburger or something. That would be better. That would be 3 of them. H, H, H. They'd be triple
Is
H.
that what their child will be named?
Hamburger? What?
Yes.
The
Someone's
space
hungry.
station looks like a burger.
That's true. Alright. Let's move on. Karax, where do you have him?
So Karax on the flip side is pretty good. He could just shoot things with space lasers without properly leaving the base, so he doesn't have to worry about dodging nuke rains while fighting Just Die enemies, because he doesn't have to fight out there to get the shuttles. He just shoots the shuttles from the sky and then fights everything in the mutator safe zones in his base, where he's not having to deal with dodging nuke rain. It's very nice and pleasant. The key thing I would say is have redundant observers, or if you're using mirages for vision, have redundant mirages, or just have both if you really want to use mirages. Because honestly, you probably want observers. Do note that going nuclear, the nuke rain, each one of the nukes that gets randomly placed has to be centered on pathable terrain, which means if you are hovering your observer in the dead center of unpathable terrain, the only way it gets hit is if a nuke randomly decides to center itself on the pathable terrain right against the ledge. So the chances of you getting nuked when you have the frozen lakes in the middle of the map, if you put an observer sieged up directly in the middle of those, it has a very low probability of getting nuked. It will get nuked eventually, but it will take a while. So that is also helpful to just keep general map vision. And aside from that, just make plenty of observers, fly in observers to see stuff. And if it dies, try to send the observers early enough that you have time to bring the next one if it dies. Also, get observer speed. Q Karax S tier. He's not quite to the level of Dehaka, but he's really good. So.
He has Unity Barrier.
He has Unity Barrier. This is true. Yeah,
So-
I would say Karax S tier.
Okay. How about you, Twotuuuu?
My issue with Karax is the Just Die Immortals, which will normal Immortals aren't really a problem because you just kill them. But when they have 2 lives, it becomes like if you're wasting a lot of energy trying to kill the Immortals before they get to your base, you have a lot less energy to deal with the shuttles, and that's what you need. When I did this, I was pretty short on energy because I had to blast the shuttles, and I was massing barrages. So I pretty much, when they get to my base, I just let them break my cannons because I can make more. But then I can't waste my energy because I need it to use it on the shuttles.
Maybe
so
you can
I put
have-
Karax in A because I still think he's pretty solid. But if you don't have good energy management, you won't kill the shuttles.
Maybe you can have the Sentinels against the Immortals. You can at least mob.
If it really is an anti-cannon composition, you could just use Zealots.
Yeah, the Sentinels.
Your Zealots are actually pretty good.
Also, I find it
you have gas.
Yeah?
You're short on gas for massing Sentinels.
Yeah, that's why I said. Oh yeah, but
But-
Sentinels don't cost gas.
If
Oh
you're
no, not
spending,
Sentinels. I'm thinking of Energizers.
Yeah, Energizers.
I was thinking of
make Zealot. Make Zealot. Literally make Zealot.
Yeah, they'll take.
If
care of
you
the
if you're
Immortals.
against Immortals or something and you're worried they're going to kill your cannons too effectively, make Zealot. You can also still make cannons and put them behind the Zealot, but your Zealots do not die to Immortals very quickly at all.
And they have double life on top of.
They
the
have
Unity
double
Barrier.
life on top of Unity Barrier, on top of the fact that, remember, Karax units just have bonus hit points. His level 1 literally says all your units are a bit more expensive, but they get more hit points. And so his Zealots get to be really, really beefy chonkers.
So, what do you think? Still A? Because if it's not unanimous, it's not S. So it's gonna be up to whether
I
Twotuuu's
think
convinced.
he could. He would not be the top or near the top, but I think he's. I initially had him in S until I thought about the immortal thing.
Which is true. It is still
Then-
concerned, but he does have an answer to it, right?
Sentinel. Oh yeah, and he also has Purifier Beam for every wave, huh?
Also
Yeah.
true.
Okay, yeah, that's fine then.
Okay, Karax S tier, third prestige, right? Or do you want the second prestige, just so you can have more cheaper units?
Nah. You want more purifier beam and more energy efficient pews.
Okay.
Yeah,
One more
that's
thing.
important.
Just die immortals is an oxymoron. Very nice. Let's move on. Kerrigan, where do you have him?
Kerrigan is not good against air, but her mutalisks are pretty good. Although if you're fighting against just die spellcasters, they're gonna do a lot of damage to your mutas. So that kind of sucks. Immobilization wave is also weakened because you take out one life, but and you still have to fight the second life. And if you're fighting like Corsairs or Vipers, oh man, that's just bad.
Very bad.
And then if you're using Hydras, I mean you can hide, but Hydras are very fragile and they'll get stormed to death too. So I think Mutas dodge nukes better than Hydras do. So yeah, I put Kerrigan in B. She's alright.
Alright, what do you think, Sticksbender?
I think I'll always prefer Hydras because, well, mostly just because I find that Hydras, if you get a Muta with all the bounces, you add together the DPS, Hydras do significantly more DPS than Mutas. But anyways, regardless, yeah, Mutas get to be safer because they stand back and shoot their bounces. Hydras are more dangerous but more DPS, but then you get to have them huddled around worms. It's your preference whether you want to be dodging by flying away Mutas or dodging by just going inside of a worm.
Yeah. So...
Either way, Kerrigan's fine. She's serviceable. She's not great. She's not bad. So B tier is also where I would put her.
Okay, so both of you say B. Let's put Kerrigan in B. Prestige-wise, you want not the first. You need immobilization wave, right? So I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Omega worms. You need Omega worms.
Well, yeah. Just not P1 because you need Omega. Well, I mean, I guess technically you could go Mutas and not need Omega worms as much, but then you're not even getting anything from P1 because creep doesn't apply to flying units.
Exactly. All right.
So you'd rather have the Omega worms anyway. Just have Omega worms. Worms are good.
Okay. Let's move on. Nova. What do I have him?
So honestly, Nova, kind of like Kerrigan, is in the category of she's fine. But not great. She's basically going. You're basically going to make a. You have solid anti-air units, but none of them are like, well, okay, let's be honest. You're making Liberators and Ravens because Nova's air units are infinitely better than her non-air units.
Yeah.
But you have Griffin Airstrike. It will take off a life off of everything, but then everything has a second life, so you're going to have to use 2 waves of Griffin Airstrike to actually kill things. Thankfully, it is a very short cooldown, so if you have the minerals to fire it twice, you can actually use it twice legitimately in order to kill waves, as long as you make sure you see them early enough, which Nova's hero unit is very good at doing. She's very good at running in, getting vision, and then running away.
She's pretty good at running.
Yep, she is quite fast. Turns out when you can teleport multiple times in rapid succession, that makes you mobile. Breaking news. Anyways, yeah, she's just like, I think there's not really that much to say about Nova, honestly. She's she has relatively high firepower, and yeah, B tier, basically.
B tier. Okay, what do you think, Twotuuuu?
I think her Liberators are not as good against air as they are against ground, but they're still pretty good.
Yeah.
And you airstrike one life, and then you'll defensive drone the second, and like fight up the second one. The dodging nukes while your Liberators are sieged part is very, very annoying. So if you're unlucky and like two nukes land near each other, you might not die, but you lose a lot of time trying to just dodge them because you can't attack ground units while you're sieged and vice versa. So it's pretty annoying to deal with. I guess just like the other ones, as long as you don't lose your units, you're pretty much paying attention to Nova and Army the whole time anyways. So I don't think you shouldn't get nuked, and you can teleport out of there if you are about to get nuked, then you're kind of trapped. I put her in A.
But
yeah.
What do you think, Sticksbender?
Okay.
I mean, I guess she's fine in A.
Is she a whole tier better
than
than Kerrigan?
Not really. I mean, the only reason I'm fine putting her in A is because like compared to Alarak, it's like Alarak wasn't terribly remarkable either. Like Nova,
That's
Alarak,
true, actually.
Kerrigan, these are all commanders that are just not too terribly much to say about them. They're fine. They get, hindered by nukes, but not obliterated by the existence of nukes. They obviously having double life and barrier makes enemies really tanky, so they can stat check you really well, but you can kind of handle those extra stats. It just is actually like extra stats, so you have to be more on top of things in general.
Double everything. So
they're all just fine. That's why I kind of put them all in B, is because they're all fine. They don't really have anything terribly remarkable or interesting about them.
what if we kick Alarak down to
this
B
mutation.
tier? Will that make it fit better?
Yeah, probably.
What do you think, Twotuuuu?
That's where I'd put Alarak in the first place.
He was high B. So
He was high B. This is true.
So kicking back
I
down.
mean,
the Alarak has super
Alarak
good
has
damage.
Alarak has a
Because he
ton of
can
damage.
mind
That's why I
blast,
was
he can
thinking.
mind blast,
Yeah.
and he could take care of things.
Oh,
I mean,
so
I'm also okay with him being low A. He has really good damage, and this just in, Alarak actually good at shooting up. Remember when the Blizzard dev team originally released Alarak and mentioned how he was going to have a critical weakness of poor anti-air?
That's
Really
not true.
funny how that panned out.
Oh my Donnie.
They created the poor anti-air commander, who has a grand total of 2 units that can't shoot up. One of which isn't supposed to deal damage because it's the supplicant. It's just there to be food and tanking. One of which is the Vanguard, which also just happens to be his worst unit, so it didn't matter anyways. Everything else shoots up. I wonder how in the world he was supposed to be a poor anti-air commander.
I didn't even get that memo. Anyway, so what? We put Nova in A tier, or is Alarak still a tier better than Nova, Kerrigan, and Abathur because he has ascendants?
I just think Nova, like, if you're against air enemies, you might be like mid, but then if you're against ground, you wreck them.
Yeah.
So does that sound...
And you can also just like, to stall, you make a lot of E-bays at the main ramp, and then like while you're dealing with shuttles, you just kind of let them hit your buildings, and then after you deal with the shuttles, you teleport back, or you can just fly back and then let them
Yeah,
kill,
I
like,
will also say that, hey, perhaps we can put Nova in A tier on the reasoning of, hey, the fact that you can just Griffin airlift in case of emergency to avoid getting nuked is really nice, because that is an instant teleport.
And you can save your ally
Instant teleports are good. Yes, you can also save your ally with it.
Okay.
Instant
so-
teleport, good.
Alright, Nova, A tier, because of you can save your ally. There we go.
Hooray!
Raynor. Oh wait, Prestige. First one, right? You
First
want
one.
Prestige. Raynor, what do we have?
Generally.
Raynor, Just Die, Barrier are just both of those are bad for him already. The good thing is that even if you use P0, you have Hyperion for the first and second shuttle waves, and you can take them both out, so it gives you time to build up. But like later on, if you're using Brave Man, you gotta dodge a lot of nukes and deal a lot of damage, but I think it's doable. You can power through the enemies. If you're using P3, you can get a good number of Viking, Banshee, or battle cruisers, and you can teleport away from nukes or use the whatever that stim. I forgot what it's called. The B ability.
Yeah, that one.
And then that
Boost.
one
Afterburners.
kind of move away.
Ignite
But
Afterburners.
Afterburners. That's what it's called. And I just don't think he's very good. He's like below average. Well, in this case, C. So I put him in C.
C is average. Anyway, what do you think, Spender?
Ryan, remember how all these people who were talking about how, like, man, I hope the enemy can't fly. Meanwhile, Raynor is like, man, I hope everything flies so I can just make Vikings and nothing else because that's my best unit in this situation.
Kind of, yeah.
It's ironic, but Raynor is like possibly like a whole tier higher against air comps because, hey, I can just solve everything with Vikings. My best unit, mass Vikings. Anyways, it's like still like he's probably like C tier against ground comps and B tier against air comps, so he's not doing great. But at least Vikings can make things somewhat manageable. And yeah, the Hyperion is very, very good for this map because of the way the timings line up, and because of how effectively it can, like, you can spawn camp shuttles very effectively with the Hyperion by just jumping in behind the spawn point and Yamatoing the shuttles. It's great times. So yeah, I think C tier is fine for Raynor.
Fine.
He's not like he definitely would be B tier if you could guarantee yourself an air comp. Like
Okay.
honestly, I would say, but you can't, so he's C tier.
Oh well. So third prestige.
You can use third prestige or you can use second. Second is going to be more versatile, but third, well,
You have more top
no,
bar.
you know what? Third is more versatile.
Yeah.
Yeah, just use third prestige if you have it. If you don't have it, you don't have to use it. I
Okay.
don't think you're going to be massively worse off without it, but
Raynor, C tier. Let's move on. Stet boy, where do we have him?
Stetmann, good news. Your Zerglings are blowing up resistant.
Yes.
Hooray. Anyways, your Zerglings are just going to basically say, wow, the enemies are good at not dying. I'm better at not dying.
Pretty much.
And then you're just going to let Gary kill everything. It's going to be pretty straightforward. Going nuclear will disable your Steadilites, which is really annoying because, of course, you're going to need P2 so that you have the oomph on Super Gary to cut through all of those hit points in time, because the shuttles do apply time pressure on how fast you actually kill things.
Yes.
You can't just tank with Zerglings forever. Also, some compositions do actually know how to kill Zerglings because they have good splash damage that is in lots of damage ticks, and by that I basically
Storm.
mean Psionic Storm.
Yep. Fungals.
Banelings as well. Banelings are fungals, but mostly like Banelings are the ones that get to do it really fast in rapid succession.
Yeah. kinda.
Even if those are some very inefficient Baneling traits. So yeah, your Zerglings aren't completely immortal, but they're very strong. Gary is very strong. Nukes are annoying because they can disable your power field, but you also have the project power field button on Gary.
You can
Yeah,
make
probably
your
just A tier.
Steadilites temporarily invulnerable by overcharging them.
You can.
So
You
that
can
works.
indeed.
Okay.
Anyways, I would say he's probably just A tier.
What do you think, Tutu?
So for the units you'll make, you'll probably just make Zerglings and Corruptors, and you just put all your Corruptors in a control group, and they are the ones you make sure dodge nukes, because Gary doesn't really care and the Lings don't really care. And since you don't need to keep moving to new areas, you pretty much, like, once you cover your side of the map, you have extra Steadilites to connect even if, like, some are disabled, and you have Gary Zone plus Overcharge, and you can teleport out when you need to.
Yes.
And also to get to another place. So he's really good against everything, pretty much. So I put him in S.
Okay. Are you convinced, Sticksbender?
Yeah. Super Gary with P2 has so many hit points. He literally can survive multiple nukes to the face. He
That's
does
true.
care about them slightly, but like slightly.
If he's
so.
overcharged, he doesn't even care at all.
If enough nukes hit you in a short enough time span, it's going to be a problem.
That's a you problem if enough nukes hit you in a short amount of time.
It's a you problem if enough nukes hit you. If you're getting like nuked repeatedly, at some point it's like, okay, you can't completely ignore the nukes. You can just slightly ignore the nukes.
Some level of competence is required.
Well, no, just some level of caring.
True. All right.
Anyways,
So-
yeah, S tier is fine. Honestly, I'd be a little bit worried about like the S tier might feel a little shaky against a few enemy compositions, mostly the really really high Templar rich ones and Swarmy Zerg. But yeah, for the most part, it's
still
gonna feel
against
pretty
those.
S tier. Against most compositions, Stemmen's gonna feel pretty S tier.
All right. Let's put Stet boy in S tier. Prestige-wise, second one, right? Second prestige.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
Stukov, where do we have him?
This is the map I hate playing as Stukov, because like when there are environmental mutators, P3 is just really bad because your damage is just reduced. P3 is also not good when there's just die and barrier. It takes you forever to kill things, and when you're getting nuked, like your DPS is just going to be reduced by a lot. So you need liberators. You're probably going to use liberators, but then you also need things against the ground. So if you're massing liberators to deal with shuttles, you don't have many resources or army against the ground. So that's another problem. And yeah, so I put him in C.
C tier.
I'm not opposed to D though. I don't think he's very good for this one.
Okay. What do you think, Sticksbender?
So anyways, you go P3, you use your top bar to handle the first couple waves of shuttles when there's not that many shuttles. Well, technically, the Alexander can easily handle any amount of shuttles. It's very good anti-air.
It
The
is very
Apocalypse is a little bit more spotty on how well it can, deal with just die barrier shuttles. If there are too many shuttles, it's going to have problems. But regardless, you just use those to be your your anti-shuttle, like heavy anti-shuttle target firing early on. Later on, you'll make like 5 or 10 liberators. Keep in mind, if your liberators get nuked while attacking, they have 90% damage reduction. They don't really care.
They take 80 damage. Still a lot.
Yeah, so it's not nothing, but it's not killing them either. So yeah, you go P3, you mass up a bunch of bunkers. Once you're getting to a critical mass of bunkers, like once you're getting to like around 100, 120 supply, you say, all right, time to make like 2 rounds of liberators. Those 10 liberators will easily be able to target down shuttles, and the infested will be able to, attack enemy waves. The bigger thing is like those swarms of P3 infested infantry are more just like they can hit shuttles and get some extra shuttle DPS as a bonus, but for the most part, it's kind of a thing of their proactive defense that whittles down the enemy waves despite the nukes hindering them until they end up getting onto your doorstep, at which point now they just have to deal with infested who aren't getting nuked.
Okay.
Meanwhile, your top bar and liberators just focus down the shuttles extremely effectively. I would put Stukov in A tier.
What do you think, Twotuuuu?
I haven't actually done this with him because he's one of the few that I haven't been this with. So yeah, I don't see him being very good against Just Die and like Just Die. I kind of get it, but with Barrier as well, he just gets pushed back. So I see the Liberator plus Alexander part, but like that's a lot later.
Have you played this as Stukov?
It's only a lot later that you need it. I don't know that I've played this specific mutation of Stukov. I have done a lot of stuff against Just Die and such with Stukov P3, but I do know there also is the whole problem of Stukov P3 has dramatically different raw strength depending on enemy composition. If they are light on splash damage, you're going to walk over them. If they are high on splash damage, well, it still can work, but it's going to be a fair bit bumpier.
How about we meet in the middle? We just put him in B tier.
That could be fine.
Is that okay?
Basically, if the only way I see him in B tier is if I'm thinking like, okay, I'm going to assume that there's, too high of a chance you get a composition that has a lot of splash damage and now you have a problem. And I feel that's reasonably fair to be worried about like comp situationalness. So Stukov is going to feel extremely A tier if you get, enemy compositions that are low on splash damage. And otherwise, he's probably going to feel B tier. So, yeah.
Are we okay with B tier?
B tier is fine.
Yeah?
Okay.
Okay, let's put Stukov in B tier. 3rd Prestige and make Liberators. That's it. Swann, where do we have him?
So, did you know the laser drill with P1 can actually slow the shuttles?
Yes.
Yippee!
It's pretty good.
It's pretty nice. It's pretty good. You do still have to live, but as we've established previously, you can build turrets inside of your base that are away from the nukes because they are a safe zone.
Yes.
And also, as has already been established and surprised many people many times, just repeatedly,
flying buildings.
Swann's turrets are really good, and actually Immortals aren't as scary as you might think they should be, because Devastator turrets have a lot more DPS than Immortals and a lot more range than Immortals, so they actually cause some serious problems for Immortals. Also, you can put tanks behind your turrets in the late game to have even more ability to blow up whatever is coming against you for attack waves, including Immortals. The biggest pain point for Swann is actually going to be killing the shuttles, because your best option for that probably is to play P1 and then get to play, how do I keep prolonged vision against these shuttles when it's raining nukes and also all the enemies are so strong? Hercules can kind of work fine because they're more slippery and can avoid getting nuked, but they are a bit fragile, so so you're going to have to be careful to not, just get run down by the enemy attack waves. So there's, a bit of a learning curve to that. Factories are very slow, so they're going to get nuked, but at least they'll be tanky enough to see stuff for a little bit longer before dying to waves, but it's not really going to be long enough with Just Die Barrier on the shuttles. You need to see through those shuttles for a long time. Your best option probably going to be going turret Wraith. So you have turrets at home to defend, you have Wraiths out there to kill shuttles. The shuttles can get, held back by the laser drill in order to buy you more time for your Wraiths to be able to handle everything. Let everything else crash into your wall of turrets and die.
All right, letter.
I guess I'm kind of thinking B tier because, like, Swann is very strong. He could be a higher tier. But he's very strong, but the execution is is going to be a bit demanding.
Taxing.
So I'm putting him down into B tier for like difficulty of execution reasons.
That's
He
fair.
could easily be higher for power.
That's fair. What do you think, Twotuuuu?
I don't think his execution is much harder than like Alarak or Nova.
Also true.
It's just,
Just
you're
dodge.
basically microing wraiths, and then you build turrets during downtime when all your wraiths are at home, and you're not gonna get nuked. So yeah, and because if you're using P1, you're not really afraid of immortals as you would with other prestiges. So you can slow them down, you can snipe. If they send immortals, it means that they're either Colossus comp, which is easy, the Reaver Disruptor, which is also kind of easy, or Master's Machines, which is like that's just one of the waves. So wraiths will deal with them pretty easily. I put Swann in A. So he's like
Not
weaker
Swann.
Karax.
Weaker Karax. What do you think,
Yeah.
Sticksbender?
Okay, I can see Swann in A. We can put Swann in A then. I thought that he'd be kind of well. Okay, the biggest thing that I had a concern with like difficult execution on Swann is because a lot of people talk about immortals because anytime you're talking about turrets, they're worried like, oh, immortals kill turrets. But a bigger concern for Swann is going to be enemy compositions that have good anti-air. Where the problem is if your wraiths accidentally pick a fight with the main attack wave,
They might lose.
hey, no more wraiths. They're all gone. Where'd they go? So yeah, A tier is fine.
Okay. A tier. Swann. Let's move. Oh wait, prestige first one. Let's move on. Tychus. Where do we have him?
Tychus. So some people still use Lone Wolf against going nuclear, which is okay. It's okay since if he gets nuked, he only takes half damage. But it's like managing the outlaws could be tricky, I suppose. If you don't use P2, I guess you might have damage issues. So I put him in A.
A. How about you, Sticksbender?
I feel like one of the biggest things you're like using P2 when you're using P2 on this map normally would be like against the going nuclear. In order to make sure the shuttles go down, you would want to be using Sam and putting bombs on the shuttles. Unfortunately, the shuttle simply says, "Nuh-uh, I'm going to live this time," and then you have to do it again, and that makes it a little bit less effective. So it kind of feels to me like, yeah, you might be better off just keeping your outlaws in a ball. If you're able to handle Tychus and Sirius and all that at the same time, you can go for it. P0, P1, and just have your focus on your whole army, have all your medevacs dedicated to keeping your whole army safe from nukes so you can just disappear out of those nukes and rely on the hefty DPS that comes from just bringing all three gunners.
Yeah.
Like,
So
or just like serious. Yeah, A tier is fine, but I would not recommend P2. If you want to go P2, it'll work, but I wouldn't recommend it. It's a lot of work.
So first prestige or not? Yeah. A tier, but not.
I like
the
first
second
prestige. P0 is fine though.
Yeah. Okay. Let's put Tychus in A tier. Zagara, where do we have him?
So this one at if you put bio launchers at the tips of the high ground near the ramp, they might get nuked actually. So it's not exactly safe, and the natural is kind of unclear where exactly the line is. So and bio launchers, because the just die they're not really for killing the shuttles. They're more for killing the attack waves. So you can just put them in the center, and you can use Scourge and Scourge all the shuttles and let the enemies come to your base. I think if you're good with bio launchers, then it doesn't really matter what enemy comp they have, because you'll blast them, take out a life, take out their barriers before they get close, and then you control your Scourge just like you control Dehaka's Locusts, and with enough of them, you can kill them, they revive, and then you kill them again with just one group of Scourge. I put Zagara in B.
B tier. What do you think, Sticksbender?
Everyone take a shot every time Twotuuuu says bio launchers, and we'll all be drunk by the end of this. Anyways, also on your bingo card, remember to fill that one in too. Twotuuuu said bio launchers. Anyways, I would probably put Zagara in A tier even because, like, being bootleg Dehaka is like the top of S tier.
Yeah.
So bootleg Dehaka sounds like you're still doing pretty good for yourself.
Yeah.
It is true you have finite damage problems where the enemies have a ton of hit points and you do have to spend money to kill things, but your hero unit also is reasonably strong as Zagara, and you can just build up a nice static defense with your spines and bio launchers and all that. So that's still pretty good. So I would put Zagara in A tier.
A tier, okay, Twotuuuu?
P1 or P3?
I would definitely lean towards P3.
I used P1 for this one, and I almost died at the end, but I like made through. So I guess it
Yeah, I
was.
could see P1 also working.
H would
No,
definitely
because
say P1.
they have if there's like I fought a Zeracom, I think, so they have a lot of barriers, and that wastes a lot of mainly.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. So like you were playing it on hard mode with P1, which I kind of expect is also hard mode if you're soloing it. If you're not soloing it, P1 and P3 are probably more similar. But if you're soloing it, P1 is definitely hard mode. And if you're playing against Zerglings or just Zerg in general, and that's hard mode. So yeah, like you kind of stress tested Zagara there, and she came out on top. So I think Zagara A tier is fine.
Okay.
it's just that like if you make a lot of bio launchers, I don't know how many exactly you should have, but if you make bio launchers, then you have less Scourge because they're fighting for gas.
This is true.
So
How many Scourge do you really need, though? Because what is your casualty rate on the Scourge? Like non-collision, I get your non-connecting rate on the Scourge.
or like hunter killers and stuff, then send the Scourge in. I guess A is alright.
Okay.
You'll also need fewer bio launchers if you have P3 because you'll have Zagara's hero unit to defend the base, and she won't need as much fire support as if the bio launchers are just having to completely handle keeping the base from burning down.
Okay, so Zagara A tier. We finally have an agreement. A tier. There we go. You can go third. You can go third prestige here, or you can go the 2 tier and go to first prestige. That's also fine. If you have an ally, first prestige is probably fine because they have an ally. Zeratul. Where do we have him?
Zeratul is a lot of lots of DPS, lots of raw strength, and hey, remember how we've been telling everyone to build cannons in their base? Zeratul's going over here like, oh my gosh, that's like my specialty. I've been doing that since I was born, building cannons in my base. So, anyways. Yeah, you build cannons in your base. You send your insanely powerful hero unit to go and kill shuttles, and everything is great. S tier.
S tier. What do you think, Twotuuuu?
He also has the Dar Archons to steal big units and demote dude for anyone who hasn't been stolen. So
Yes.
yeah, I put him in S.
S tier. All right. So Zeratul S tier. Okay. Do we have a double S?
Not really. You
Not
still
really.
have to navigate through stuff.
Okay. So who's top of S? Dehaka?
Dehaka.
And then Zeratul?
And
I would say Zeratul, honestly. It's
Zeratul.
between Zeratul and Karax.
Okay. There we go. Who's top of A tier?
Tychus? He only has 5 dudes.
Sure. And he has medevacs too.
Yeah.
So yeah, makes sense. And then Arcturus?
Maybe I
teleport.
kind of feeling like Zagara. But
Zagara?
I was thinking Swann or Manx because their static defense means you don't really have to rush to get back to defend.
yeah, they're all good options, really. We can say that Alarak and Nova are at the bottom. That part is pretty
Yeah,
easy.
Nova below Alarak.
Okay.
Nova Alarak. Okay. Yeah.
Correctly arranged.
Cool.
Top of B.
Personally, I would probably put Stukov at the top of B. Well, or Vorazun. Yeah, probably Stukov, right? Because Vorazun in the first shuttle. Yeah, I'd put Stukov at the top of B.
Not Abathur.
And then Kerrigan, and then I don't really know between Abathur and Vorazun. Well, you know what? I'd put Vorazun above Abathur because Vorazun has the instant teleport. You can save your
can save your
ally.
ally.
Woo!
Fine. All right. Top of C tier.
Alright. I think Phoenix is. At least
Yeah.
Caldalis deals with the ground very easily.
Yeah.
Yep. At least he kills the ground very easily.
Phoenix is not the bottom 3. Phoenix is not the bottom 3. We know who those are.
Yeah, we know who the bottom 3 are here.
Between Raynor and Artanis.
Artanis has a lot less comp dependence than Raynor, so it's kind of hard to really compare them. Raynor is either like a lot better than Artanis or just kind of worse than Artanis,
And call it a tie.
depending on what the enemy comp is. So yeah,
And they're like not competing for a high tier anyway. So like a tie here isn't
no, they're not.
that big of a deal. All right, so there it is. So this is the tier list for this week, guys. Watch Twotuuuu and Sticksbender channels. I will link them down below. We'll see you guys next time.